representation sort of thing.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Another fantastic episode of Left Trek where we're talking about how much I should be watching Deep Space Nine, but instead we're watching the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
It is so funny that I literally started the recording right before you started saying that.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. But here's the thing. We're gonna talk about this today as we get into these episodes. But like, unlike Voyager and Enterprise, and even the beginning, some inklings of Deep Space Nine beginning first season, even though I think Deep Space Nine's first season is much stronger, Star Trek: The Next Generation, like those first seasons of those Trek shows are like kind of bland and dull. And what I will say for Star Trek: The Next Generation season 1, it can be dull, and it's definitely bad, but it's weird in fascinating ways.
Yeah, it's bad and boring in much more interesting ways than Star Trek is typically bad and boring.
Mm-hmm. Like Voyager and Enterprise, they're just like, oh, we're doing the shit. It's like, oh, ship stuff, and we're just like hanging out. Like, oh, here's a nebula. Here's the same alien with the weird forehead ridges that we encounter every day week. And you're just kind of like, yeah, this is fine. It's not bad, but I'm just kind of bored by it. And then, but like TNG is just like, oh yeah, Riker's gonna watch weird harp porn.
Proximity alert. Vessel approaching. The vessel is hailing.
Space.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
Yeah. Oh.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's at the very front. Well, I guess before I hit my notes here. What? First of all, your YouTube is Jessie Gender, right? Like.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do I refer to you as Jessie Gender, or do I refer to you as Jessie Earl?
You can refer to me as Jessie Earl. It's a weird choice. I like the name Jessie Gender because it does like kind of stand out a little bit.
Yeah, it has like a kind of alliteration to it. I like it. I like the way it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just like the two things that I hate about it is like, one, I never know how to answer the question that you just asked me. Like we're just chatting. Refer to me as Jessie Earl, but like when people are like, how do you want to be introduced? I'm like, Jessie Gender, also known as Jessie Earl. Like I never know how to answer that. And then the other thing too is like I do try to like talk about like trans issues and nerd issues and all that stuff. And there's always that like thing where I try to talk about like look, I'm trans and I like to talk about trans issues, but I'm definitely not defined by being trans, as many like trans folks like to say that you only talk about trans stuff. But then I do have to say, it's like, well, I did choose the name Jessie Gender, so I guess there's a little bit of it. It's on myself.
Many months later.
Hi there, Eric from Left Trek with a quick aside. We had such a good time with Jessie that we couldn't help but to get sidetracked on a wide variety of topics. As a result, we recorded for much longer than can fit into one episode, so I'll be breaking up half of that into a bonus episode. We talk about New Trek, we talk about The Matrix, we talk about Star Trek books, we talk about a whole host of things. Very funny. I'd love to keep it in the episode if we could, but unfortunately, if I did, it would be 3 hours long. So if you want to check that out, please go support us on Patreon. It's only $3, and we would very much appreciate it. It helps keep Left Trek going. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
We should talk about Star Trek at some point.
Yeah, yeah. We'll and who knows, you know, how I'm gonna chop this up in editing. We'll see. Okay. So our the innovation of Left Trek is that we do our plugs at the beginning. Okay, here. Let me think of a funny one. No, I don't really
Comedy?
think I can think of a funny one.
Comedy?
Give me 10 minutes.
Oh,
What?
I need 10 minutes to come up with a funny
with a good joke.
Hold on.
I don't think. I don't.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm unsure what's happening too. I was just gonna sit here until I figured out what was happening.
What are we doing?
Hi there. I'm Eric from Left Trek. Welcome. Wait, hold on. Wait. I approached that all wrong. I had the thing. I had this prepared earlier, and I fucked it up already. God damn it!
A notebook of.
Oh, I should write these down actually. No, but yeah, we do our plugs at the beginning. I'm Eric from Left Trek. I've been replaced by a changeling. Joining me is Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian. Trashcan 1312. What's up, everybody?
And also making a surprise reappearance, Zots.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zots, the only Zots on Twitch. How you doing?
The only Zots. And joining us, special guest, honored guest, we have Jessie Earl from the Jessie Gender Show.
Hey. How are you? I am currently trying to think of like a funny intro. It's like I'm currently stuck in an arranged marriage to a boring bland man.
I think last episode I was sub adjutant to the JAG officer in Sector 31 overseeing cases pertaining to but not in violation of the Prime Directive.
Oh God. That's a title that's straight from Star Trek.
That's a good. I'm practicing for my Lovelace character. So we begin here at episode as listed on Netflix. It is episode 10, Haven, because they can combine the first two episodes into one episode. Not important.
Oh boy.
We open, I think, maybe with Riker watching a tiny hologram of two, just like sitting in a chair, like just
fully clothed too. Like I'd be less concerned. I would honestly be less concerned if we like entered that scene and he was naked.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Just in his uniform, just sitting on like a chair in the middle of the room, just staring at this hologram of like these two tiny ladies playing. Like, are they both playing harps?
Yes.
Yeah, they're both like playing harps. It is just.
Listen, I'm excited for the future of porn just based on that. He looked so content in like what he was doing, and he was so mad when he finally like approached Tasha Yar, like as if she just like ruined everything.
Yeah, he was like, dang it, I was about to like have some fun here. It's just so weird. But like what's fascinating about it is like I think what they were trying to do with that scene is like later on in the episode it's all about like how Riker is like he pursued his career over his relationship with Troy, and he gets all jealous at Troy for being in an arranged marriage, which we'll talk about too in like the problems of like his possessiveness of Troy, which is funny. But like I think what they're trying to establish is like, yeah, he's an open sexual dude who like is gonna regret that's his arc. He's like gonna regret that he didn't like become down with Troy. Like I think they're just trying to show that he's like promiscuous.
Interesting.
I think like that was the intent. It doesn't really come across.
I think you might be right. It's done very
Jesus.
poorly. Yeah, absolutely.
Christ, could Gene Roddenberry for like 10 seconds hold back on traditional like bullshit for once? Like, can we please?
It's like
No.
it's the whole thing I talked about in my Sex and Star Trek series, like especially with the beginning bit here with Gene Roddenberry is like he's such a horn dog that everything needs to be about sex, which I in many ways I'm somewhat supportive of, but he also always frames it as like male centered and like objectifying women in every way.
No,
he loves sex for him, for Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah.
He's very
Like,
sex positive when it comes to sex for Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, and I'm here for the sexually positive future. Like Riker over the series like becomes a super like sex positive character, like one of my favorite sex positive characters in all of fiction, but here he's just like weirdly possessive and creepy.
Oh, wait, so you don't like the sex positive character of T'Pol from Enterprise?
Oh God. Don't even get me started there with Paul.
Well, Riker is interrupted from his fantasy of watching two tiny ladies play the harp.
I mean, here's the thing. This is like my whole pitch of like my again, apologies that I'm going to go off on side tangents and shut me up.
That's what Left Trek is about. Don't worry.
Perfect. All right. Well, like for those of you who haven't seen, I'm doing a series called Sex and Star Trek, and the whole first episode that was 3 hours long because that's how my brain works, was just like talking about Gene Roddenberry and how he like was very progressive for his time, and he did like include sex, did like find a place for women of color and things like that. But it was all like as an extension of himself. Like he always like it was always very much like, look at me, I put a black woman on the bridge. It was always like to aggrandize himself. And then
look at me, I'm attracted to black women. How progressive am I?
Exactly. And so like he put sex and everything because he all of his scripts were very sex positive, which again here for, but again always very male centered. And so
very misogynist even as well, especially with the original series.
I told you I told y'all he fucked those tribbles. I knew it.
Oh god, so much tribble fucking. But then the way I sort of am structuring the rest of the series and the argument that I'm kind of making is like that was his problem that he then put into Star Trek. And because he as a creator was so deified, that vision as Star Trek progressed got so more ingrained to the point where you got to Paul and 7 of 9 in Voyager and Enterprise, and they were just so visually like it wasn't just like characters in the writing that was it wasn't just the characters that were like objectified, like the camera and the way that people were thinking about these characters was supposed to objectify them. Like 7 of 9 just sexy Borg Barbie, to Paul just like always like being like in a tight skin suit, but it was like graining against the actual like intent of the writing, because 7 of 9 and T'Pol are the best characters in both of those. They're the best written and acted characters in both of those shows, at least in my opinion. And so the writing is up to them, but we are made to just objectify them visually, and so it's just graining against each other with like the times that we're trying to progress with the series, like being a show set that was made into 2000s versus the 80s.
Yeah,
but like the ingrainedness of the sexual objectification just stayed throughout.
Jerry Ryan, like as a hypothetically like very powerful woman in Hollywood, just absolutely just treated like shit for a very long time in her career, especially on Voyager, where she's like has to wear a corset and she's almost fucking like passing out as she's filming. That's why
it's the one thing I love about Picard. Or like there's some things I do like about Picard, but in that show, like Jerry Ryan at least gets to be like at least I'm get to be like badass and just wearing like whatever like Ranger clothing stuff, and she's not like objectified in any way, which I'm like, I'm here for that at least.
I forgot the do you have a sex in Star Trek episode about the like possibilities of sex in Star Trek, like i.e. the holodeck?
So basically, I've done episode 1. Episode 2 is on Next Generation, and then I'm going to be doing a third sort of side episode, because the third one's going to be on Deep Space Nine, but I'm going to do like little offshoot videos as well. That will be like Patreon exclusives, and one of them will be is going to be the ethics of holodeck sex. So,
computer, I would like 1 slam girl, please. Please state specifications for consistency of slam girl. I'm looking for 75% gelatin, 10% water.
Eric, have you thought about this a lot? Is that what I'm getting here?
Well, this was like the structure for like a cold open that I had like in my mind. I was gonna, I need to find someone who could do a convincing computer voice.
Well, like the ethics of holodeck sex is like fascinating, because like think about it. As we see like later on in TNG, there's a whole episode where Barclay, he makes versions of his fellow crew members in his fantasy world, and he even has one of like a sexy Deanna Troi, and so it's like the consent issues on that is just, like, I mean, we even see we see it today already, where like people will take like people's faces and do like deep fakes of them onto porn of like famous people, and like do deep fakes of them on porn, and so it's like
what happened to Elliot. And what was it? Not Become Human. What the fuck was it? The other shitty.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Elliot, our previous Left Trek guest.
No, what
happened to Elliot? Okay.
Well, I know like gamer Alana Pierce, who she's a outspoken like video game advocate and talks about like video gaming and stuff. Great personality. She's talked about that too. How like people have taken her image and like put it on porn and stuff. And so like the holodeck is like a weird extension of that. And we even see that in like Deep Space Nine. There's an episode that was like meant to be a comedy episode where Quark is trying to like secretly scan Kira because someone paid him, because someone's like, I want to fuck Kira in the holodeck. And so Quark's like trying to creepily scan her without her consent so this guy can like fuck her in the holodeck, which is like all sorts of mess. That's one episode I'll be talking about because it's like that episode just like treats that as like, oh, it's funny. It's like, no, that is profoundly fucked up.
Not good.
Yeah, well, yeah, it definitely has like a comedic punchline to it. It does at the very least specify specifically that this would definitely be something that the person would be extremely not okay with, just to the most intense degree.
But it does kind of do it like the lovable. It's like the lovable scamp trope where it's like we're supposed to hate. Like I do love Quark. He definitely I love Quark when he has like I have the heart of gold sort of thing. But when Deep Space Nine does the lovable scamp trope, which is like he's doing bad things, but it's okay because he's funny.
Yeah.
That is where I grade against the character Quark. Where Quark works is more when it's like he's a bad guy who will occasionally do the good thing, as opposed to like the opposite of that, where it's like he's the slightly good guy who does the bad thing, and it's okay if he does the bad thing because we know he's a good guy. It's like no, he's kind of a bad dude who does the right thing occasionally, and that's where we get sympathy for him.
Yeah, he's given like he's oftentimes given like hacky like sitcom dialogue. And that episode that we're talking about, that too, where it's not treated as truly like a violation. It's treated like he's the wacky sitcom guy doing the wacky. He's like Kramer in that episode. Like he's a crazy guy trying to do something funny to get some cash. Whoop-a-doo.
Yep. I love how we all got on this from like just Riker looking at Harp women in this.
Yeah, true.
That's the beauty of Star Trek, isn't it?
A Left Trek staple has become like just talking about fucking on the holodeck.
There's
I make
endless
sure
possibilities of fucking on the holodeck. I mean, Zotz is the person that's recommended the holodeck slime girls in the first place. I'm like, oh,
wait, what?
Interesting. Okay. Yeah,
slime girls. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
You incepted that. Into the left Trek.
One of these days, you know, we'll do. Maybe that's what we'll weeb Brian on. We'll do interspecies reviewer.
Oh my god! And so the next episode actually addresses another interesting thing. When you get wet or when you have something on you, like in the holodeck, and you leave, that's something that's not like from your body, and then you leave, that stays with you in season 1 of the Next Generation, and it does not another one. In like the first episode, Wesley falls into a creek, and then he walks out, and he's still sopping wet. In this episode, a woman, not in this one, in the next one, and the woman smooches Picard, and he's still got the lipstick on his face, and he's walking.
And there's an episode
around
later on too where I think like Picard's walking past the holodeck, and like Wesley is throwing snowballs out of it, and he gets hit in the face with it.
Oh, I remember that. Yes, you're right. Oh,
Yep.
There's so
many
in
later seasons that totally doesn't happen.
And in Voyager, especially, because Voyager makes heavy use of holograms.
I think that there's also an answer for that in the next episode that we'll talk about, as to probably why that didn't carry on.
Yeah.
So,
my explanation I came up with a weird pseudo explanation is that like the way the holodeck works in my mind is that most of it's all like digital, like it's all just holograms. But every once in a while, where it's relevant, so you can like eat stuff, like if it's food or something, it'll actually replicate it physically there. And so like lipstick, like if it's going to interact with you like lipstick, or if your character like on the holodeck has to eat food or something, then because we know they have like replication technology, we just be like, oh, it'll be actually make that and like process that differently than like the holograms so that you can interact with it. And so that's why you can leave the holodeck with it. as opposed to like other things, which is like my explanation.
That is also what I imagined. But then Voyager kind of like contradicts that, because they talk about like photons and force fields.
Yeah.
But then in early TOS, it's like, not TOS. In early TNG, it's like, oh no, well, it's different, it's more complicated. And then in Lower Decks, this one
There's
character,
the cum filter.
this one, that's an important one.
Which, speaking of sex on the holodeck, there is literally a cum filter on the holodeck. That is Lower Decks official Star Trek canon. This is why I love Lower Decks, by the way.
Yeah, and that's one part of it. And there's also one where a character's covered in blood, and then she walks off the holodeck, and then you see the blood like slowly fade. It's like, this is inconsistent technology. I'm gonna have a word to Gene Roddenberry about this.
Maybe it is.
We
never see after the snowball hits, right?
I
You never
keep
see it
telling
very
you.
long after Wesley gets wet. You just don't know if it sticks around, right?
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
maybe like the mobsters who walk out of the holodeck, they like start to fade over time, right?
Interesting.
And since like Voyager, and because like it's kind of clear in this season that like the technology is relatively new, and so like because like Picard's like all like, oh, the holodeck is so cool. I've never seen VR or anything ever in my life. But then so it's like relatively new technology, at least within this show, and so you could argue that like it just got better over time, and so like that's why it takes less time for it to like disappear.
True, and they do actually say specifically, Troy has a line where Picard is the holodeck has recently gotten upgraded, and Picard has been excited to try out the upgraded holodeck. Well, and I think the implication is that like before you could only do like basic environments, and then now they have like subroutines to like create stories and things like that.
Yeah.
So
and
that's
and that actually follows through too with in. I think there's an episode called, I think it's like 10110001, where the Binars upgrade the holodeck.
Upcoming soon, I believe.
Yeah.
In Left Trek. Yeah, that's the creepy sex holodeck one. Yeah,
where Riker like really creeps on the girl. Like I love
Riker. Picard's just there too.
Yeah, I love Riker. He is easily one of my favorite characters in this show, and he becomes such a like sex. I keep talking about this, but like because I'm writing this script, like I have a whole page devoted to like talking about how Riker is a sex positive king and is absolutely wonderful. But in this season, he's an absolute creep.
Except when he's on Ryza, and then he brings some like weird like device onto the Enterprise, and with the alien with the stuff on her forehead tries to take it over.
I will defend. Well, number one, that whole game thing was like mind control, so it's not his fault. Number two, it totally gives everyone orgasms if you watch that episode.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. That's the other, like everyone's just like rolling around having a good time, except this time it's not a space virus that's making everyone be on LSD, but no, it's not LSD, it's more like alcohol. This time it's a sinister plot by the aliens with the butt faces. Oh my god.
And they just like selling evil orgasm Candy Crush is like how they do it.
We'll get to that episode in Left Track. Tune in for episode 50 coming out in 3 years from now. So unfortunately we have to go back to Haven. I went into this episode thinking like, oh god, it's this one. I remember everything about this one. I did not remember everything about this one. It's way better than I thought. I would even go so far as to say that I liked it. I thought it was good. Like the writing's really snappy. I love Loxana Troy. I love Diana Troy's mother.
I love her too. She has people give her such vitriol sometimes in the fandom. Her and Keiko O'Brien both get hate, and they're both wonderful. And Loxana here is freaking fantastic. I adore how she just takes no crap from Picard. She's like, carry my bags, man. And Picard's into it too. You get the implication at the end of the episode that Picard's like, oh man, I want her to fuck me so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I mean, she literally says at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that he's having dirty thoughts.
Oh, you want a bone?
Yeah. I also love the implication that Picard is a sub, apparently. Then
maybe they talk about that in Picard season 2. I haven't seen it. So Riker, Riker has the tiny harp ladies, and he's so upset to be interrupted. He must go to the transporter room, and there in the transporter, they've created there's a box there, the box with a horrifying metal face on it, and the metal face gives some warning. I forgot what exactly it says, and then the metal face spits out a bunch of
mecha hiney ho.
and then
is that also the actor? I couldn't tell. Is that the actor who plays Quark? Yeah,
it is. I looked it up. Yeah,
I totally missed it.
Yeah.
I was just about to compliment Brian's keen eye on this, because I couldn't believe it, but that's the actor that plays the metal face in the metal box that spits out a bunch of plastic jewels. That's the first appearance of Quark. What's the actor's real name?
Armin Shimmerman. But is it? Have you watched the last Outpost episode, the first Ferengi episode yet? Is that here yet?
Yes, we saw.
He's in that. He's in that episode.
Oh, is he? Really?
Yeah, he plays a Ferengi in that episode. In fact, that's why he came back. He states why he came back as Quark, because he plays a Ferengi in that episode, and because that was the first appearance of the Ferengi, he felt so embarrassed by what he had helped make the Ferengi be that he was like, I need to redeem them and play Quark to like make these guys better. Which I think he's too hard on himself. It's not his fault the writing was crap, but that's his sort of excuse for coming back as Quark. So no, his first appearance is as a Ferengi.
That's amazing. I had absolutely no idea. That's fantastic. I love having people that are knowledgeable about the that's like my blind spots. I rewatch like the Next Generation like era, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, TNG, and Enterprise like semi regularly. Like I just have it on a lot of times with like background noise, and I need like shows to sleep to, and we often have those on, like me and my girlfriend, but the original series and any of the behind the scenes stuff, total blind spot for me. I don't know a lot about it, so I really appreciate having people come on and share these insights, because there's just so much in the production of these shows that are so interesting, especially in this era of the Next Generation where everyone hates each other. Like no one's having a good time. Everyone's constantly fighting behind the scenes. Like Picard's just like fucking screaming at his castmates, and Gene Roddenberry is just chain smoking cigars on set, and it is like examining Marina Sirtis's cup size and like worried and making her stuff her bra and stuff. Like it's
and then also like his lawyer is like rewriting people's scripts behind their back, which he's not even legally allowed to do, which is a fascinating story. And then like the writers coming in and out all the time, and then Rick Berman being a homophobe as well, like in like canceling Jarrett. There are so many stories behind the scenes of like, especially early TNG. You're like, I have no idea how the hell this show kept getting made.
Or how only one actor ended up quitting. Well, I guess two, because
one got more. Beverly Crusher leaves. She was fired because Maurice Hurley thought she spoke up too much as a woman.
Who's Maurice Hurley? Is that the lawyer?
He was that was Leonard Maisler. So Maurice Hurley is the guy who becomes essentially he kind of like takes over the writers' room in season 2, because towards the end of season 1 into season 2, because Gene Roddenberry's like, number one, his health was kind of met, and also he was like executive producing more as opposed to like the writing room and giving notes. So Maurice Hurley came in towards the end of season 2, and the actress who played Beverly Crusher has spoken about this, how and Rick Berman too actually kind of spoke about it too, which is surprising considering Rick Berman's also kind of meh.
Rick Berman desperately trying to rehabilitate himself after he's such a fucking asshole.
But so she spoke about how Maurice Hurley basically hated her because she would go around and be like, hey, I just had this idea about my character. Hey, I had this like idea. Like she was just outspoken about her character, the same way that all the other men were on the show. Like Riker and Troy, Patrick Stewart was probably complaining even more about things than she was, and she was giving suggestions. And so she was sort of seen as, and Maurice Hurley being kind of sexist was like, screw her, get her off the show. It's quite literally that's the reason she was fired, which is ridiculous.
That a woman with ideas? Preposterous. This is Star Trek. Get it out of here.
And also why and that sexism behind the scenes was perpetuated in a lot of things, because if you look at Jonathan Frakes, who's gone on to be a really great director, he's directed a lot of movies and TV shows and he's fantastic at it. He got to start directing because Rick Berman took him under his wing and said, okay, I'll let you direct. And also LeVar Burton too got chances, even Patrick Stewart did. And the actress who played, I'm blanking on her name, Gates McFadden, who played Beverly Crusher, she was literally the only cast member before TNG who had directing experience. She had directed plays before coming to TNG. And she kept asking every season to get a chance to direct like all the dudes, and she didn't get it until season 7. And the episode they gave her in season 7 was the episode Genesis, which is a very heavy makeups effect episode and a very technically difficult one. And so she kind of they kind of set her up to fail. And it's just this constant sexism behind the scenes. And she's spoken about how she's proud of that episode and how she was really pleased that she helped pave the way for Rosario Dawson, who also went on to become a director, the actress who played B'Elanna Torres in Voyager.
Which one's Genesis?
Genesis is the one in season 7 where it's Barclay becomes the spider. And
she directed that
into
one.
A fish and everything, which is it's a fun little. It's not a great episode, but it's a fun little random crap happening on the ship sort of thing.
I quite like it because Barclay. What's the actor that plays Barclay? What's his name?
Oh God, why am I blanking on his name too? I forget his name off the top of my head.
He's got a lot of range, and he plays someone that's slowly transforming into a spider very well. It's very accurate portrayal of someone becoming a spider.
Yeah, he's also on the A-Team, which is weird. It's he plays this very neuroatypical dude who's
Constantly
anxious all the time in Next Generation. Then he goes to the A-Team, where he's this badassing up with Mr. T.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
Damn.
So, what were you gonna say, Brandon?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I'm sorry. By the way, I'm sorry I rant a bunch. I have too many things that I know about the show. So
once again, that's what Left Trek is about.
20 minutes later.
We left off on the horrible face box. I like to think that the face box has consciousness. But that's just me. That's just a me thing.
That's just a dream.
But it spits out a bunch of plastic jewels, and you can hear the plastic jewels hitting the plastic transporter, and high quality sound preserved on Netflix. Amazing. Quark plays the metal box guy. Not apparently not his first appearance. I can't believe he was one of the Ferengis and I didn't notice it. He's just goblining around on the planet.
He's one of those. He's one of the goblin Ferengi. Yeah.
So in this first episode, it turns out Troy is in an arranged marriage, sort of. It's weird, but it's kind of it's a Betazoid thing where they have this kind of arranged marriages because their fathers were friends, and so they vowed so Troy's father vowed her to her friend's son. It's kind of really not
it's not ideal,
not great. But the other people are all human. It's weird.
Yeah, I get what they were going for to a degree with it, is they're trying to do this discussion of cultural expectations placed onto people, and how people Troy's trying to live up to these cultural expectations for her. But it then becomes weird because the dude that she's supposed to marry is the blandest man ever, though he does have one good scene later on.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's shown to be a nice person, Troy could potentially be happy with this nice guy, and then they have a kiss.
That's my problem too, is just she starts to be into it too quickly.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of I don't know if there's a specific name of a trope for this, but it happens all the time. The arranged marriage subplot for like a female character in the show. It happens in sitcoms. It happens in science fiction. Like you get
Game
it.
of Thrones did it. Like the whole Sean Bean's, like, what's her face? Like she fell in love with him after their arranged marriage, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, and there's some interesting stuff there, because that's also kind of, okay. I cannot get started on Game of Thrones. That's
That's a whole other topic.
Because in the books it's like, oh well, was she kidnapped? Was this like a love thing? Was anyway. What a terrible show that was. Picard goes and checks out the wait, no, oh fuck, Picard is there once Troy's mother comes on board, because the arrangements were made. I guess the human parents of the soon-to-be husband sought out Loxana in order to collect her daughter for their child. Like, and they're all humans. Like, there's no cultural thing there. This is just purely fucked up of these people. I don't even know what their goals are. Like, why did they go out of their way to just like try to collect Troy? That's weird.
And it's like, I like, it would have made more sense if like there was something to be because like you do arranged marriages. Like the idea of arranged marriages is that you're like supposed to get something, like it's supposed to like increase your status in society, or like money or whatever. Like there's like economic and like social reasons that people do arranged marriages. Whereas like the idea put forth here is that they're just like doing it just cause. Like there's no real reason for it. I'm not saying arranged marriages are good. I'm just saying like there's usually motivation behind it.
There's a reason that they exist in the real world, or even did exist in the real world, especially like political, because marriage is first and foremost like a political concept that between royalties. And well, I guess what I like to think here is that their son, who went to medical school, he's still living with them. He just can't find a place of his own, even though like you can live anywhere you want. You have to please take my son. Please go live on the Enterprise. Holy fuck. He keeps just sitting around the house drawing pictures of this blonde woman with a strong jawline and gigantic hair. What the fuck?
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just weird, because it's like, again, it's like, oh, is Troy trying to is Troy's mother trying to increase her status? Well, no, because she's like a well-respected diplomat, and like she's not really gaining anything by this. But then that family doesn't seem to be gaining anything either. Like they're like, oh, we're just gonna marry Troy off to our son.
It's so weird. This is clearly like a script that was written in the 60s, that got preserved and like rewritten 100 times to be different.
This one wasn't. This one was actually
really
written. Yeah, I can tell you there are 2 scripts from old Star Trek shows that got reused in The Next Generation. This is not one of them.
Is one of them Code of Honor?
No, that was also written for today. No,
God.
The 2 that one was actually, there's a whole history about Code of Honor. That wasn't originally supposed to be black people. It was the racist director of the episode who only cast black people and said, we'll make this black people.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, the director was racist. Oh. It was literally supposed to be some weird alien. He's like, no, just make it black people.
That's awful.
That's fucking awful. That's worse than what I thought it was.
That's why the nearly humanoid line is there. Oh.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Who directed that episode? I want to throw rocks at them.
And what's funny, even funnier, the writer of that episode went on to write for Stargate SG-1, and there's an episode that is exactly like Code of Honor and does the exact same thing, written by the exact same writer as the second episode of Stargate SG-1. She like did it exactly again in that show, and it was still just as offensive, but slightly less so in SG-1. But like, it's just hilarious. Anyways,
it's so fun. They were supposed to be weird aliens, but the guy just cast black people.
Yeah. He just make it play. He just cast black people to do it. Yeah.
What a piece of shit! My God.
Yeah. What a fucking asshole. Because like the thing is like what I brought up about like the difference. So there's the honor one, right? Whatever the fuck it's called, the one that we're talking about.
Yeah,
And then like 2 episodes later, there's one where they go to the planet where it's just a bunch of white people fucking, right? And
Justice.
Bunch of white blonde people fucking.
Yeah. So it's like, so you have this planet of Aryans, and it's like, so like when they do like, so when they do Code of Honor,
racist show I've ever seen in my life.
when they do Code of Honor, right? Even fucking Troy is like, we need to nuke them, and then like everyone's like, and then like Picard's like, oh, but the Prime Directive, and everyone like is doing everything but like an eye roll and a heavy sigh in regards to it. Like they want to do everything they can to just like end this civilization because it's a waste of their fucking time, right? And then they get to the Aryan world, and it's just like one of their crewmen is literally going to be put to death, and they're like, well, maybe we can talk this out, maybe we can just bring them over to our side. Can we vote on it? Like what can we do? Can we have like a reasonable discussion? Maybe can we set up a debate? Like this is, it's like fucking hell, like it's not even subtle. It's
Yep.
That is I had that's so fucked up. I gotta what's the thing? Oh my god, I gotta do the thing where I think it's okay. I gotta do the thing where you have to stop laughing.
Yeah.
That's so that's so racist. It's awful. Oh
it's really bad. And I like one of the stories too. I can't. This one is a unconfirmed one, so I can't tell you that this is definitively what happened. But from like things that I've sort of found in research, they didn't know that while it was filming, and like the people like Gene Roddenberry and people like learned that this was happening, and they're like, oh, we are never fucking hiring that guy ever again.
Hey, I'm glad to hear that at least. But they were like, wow, that's really racist. I mean, they still put the episode out, which maybe they should.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely very much like they realized how fucked up it was, but didn't realize how fucked up enough. It was like, we'll get away with it. It's fine.
Check out Left Trek episode 2. See a discussion on Code of Honor.
Yeah, you can hear. You can hear Zot's like scream over how fucking angry he is at that fucking. Yeah. God, I hated that episode so fucking much.
Oh my god,
everything about it, like from start to finish, it was fucking right. Because like even like in the beginning when they're just like, oh, we have to like, here's our gift from our planet. This is a historical relic from the Chinese dynasty, and then like Data's like, actually, sir, and then it's from this era of the Chinese dynasty, and then Picard's like, yeah, whatever. Like, here's your horse. Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
And he also, my black friends, all of black people in human history in that episode too. There's literally like, he says, he has like a line, it's like, well, there's a culture like there's a culture back on humanity that we respect just as much as yours. And it's like basically just Picard going like, yeah, my black friends to every black person in human history. It's like, oh god.
Oh
yeah. Fuck that episod and fuck that Aryan. Well, that Aryan planet episode, I hated both of those.
But to be fair, the Aryan planet episode, beyond like you are very correct, the white coding of that whole episode is very fucked up. I like that episode because of how fucking weird it is and strange, and it's just like, yeah, no, it's just the fuck planet. Like, what are you gonna do? We're just gonna have this fuck planet. I'm very well aware it has problems, but I have like a weird soft place for it because it's just so strange.
Also, the model for the alien spaceship they use in that episode is the same model they use in that one episode where you already know what I'm saying before you say it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love it. It makes me feel so much less embarrassed knowing these things about Star Trek.
Yep.
Thank you.
I feel bad because like I know too much about Star Trek. It's like I should have an actual life. But
you're making me feel great, and I love that. Thank you very much.
I was like, it's either this or I've made my life. I get paid to make Star Trek crap, so it's like it was either that or I don't do anything productive with my life. So
Jessie Gender now on Nebula, right?
I am on Nebula.
Hey, making the step forward to that one platform. We'll cut this out. We'll cut this part.
Oh, you're fine. I am on Nebula. It's fine. It's really cool.
Oh yeah. The running joke in this podcast is that I say something that like implies something else, and then I cut it out, but I don't actually cut it out because then I think it's very funny in editing that I'm like fucking over past me, like yeah, take that, idiot.
I will say,
Eric
getting back to this. Oh, sorry.
Eric likes to make jokes for themselves.
Oh, you're all good. That's all my life is just making jokes at myself. But getting back to this episode, I do want to get back to this episode just to focus on a little bit to help us stay on track. One thing I do like about this episode, besides Luxana, who I think is fantastic start to finish, the other thing I do like about it is that it also like showcases the sex positivity of the Betazoids. Again, I think the only thing you can talk about positively about like Star Trek in early seasons is like a lot of this, like the sex positivity in some aspects. And I do like that we learn like Betazoids are like, yeah, we're naked for our marriages and things like that. And then like this like lack of shame of the body, which I thought was like a cool concept. And that gets into like the whole sex and Star Trek thing that I was talking about before with my videos, where it's like, while Gene Roddenberry was very male gaze focused and like had a lot of like oh, sex, like women are objects for me, he also was a very fairly sexually progressive dude and much more open about sex. And I'm like, yeah, I think we should not have shame at like our bodies. And so I actually like that element of Betazoid culture.
Yeah, and I think that also ties into like the honesty that they talk about, because Loxana goes on the spiel about how their Betazoids are excessively honest, because you know everyone can read each other's minds, so there's no point in hiding everything. Everyone has everything out in the open, and you know, and the nudity of the weddings thing that definitely ties into that too. It's very, and that is mostly like played on as a joke from that point on. In Next Generation movies and further Next Generation episodes. But Loxana comes onto the ship. She's flirting with Picard. She's an absolute just firestorm. Played, if I remember correctly, played by Gene Roddenberry's wife, right?
Yep, Majel Barrett, who also played two things about her. So she is Gene Roddenberry's wife. She also played Una in the original pilot for Star Trek, where she met Gene Roddenberry and she had an affair with him while he was married to another woman on that show.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, Roddenberry was married to another woman who he also apparently abused verbally and other things. Also he slept with Majel Barrett on the side, and then eventually he divorced his wife and married her. And then she also played Nurse Chapel on the original series too. And then she also is the voice of the computer.
Nurse Chapel?
Oh my! She's Nurse Chapel.
Oh my god!
And
I had no idea.
She's the voice of the computer.
Yeah, I did know that she was the voice of the computer. Yeah, so that's Gene. Anytime you hear the computer speaking, that's Gene Roddenberry's wife, who plays Loxana Troy in this episode. Well, and Loxana Troy going forward, even into Deep Space Nine, where she has some great episodes.
I actually think her best episodes are the ones with Odo. I
think she has
some of the best moments with him.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, a real fantastic actor. She's incredible, and she really brings a presence to the character. A presence that's demanded by the writing of this character, and she's just on her fucking A game. She's the best thing about this episode for sure. But an otherwise weirdly like funny, like well written episode. Me and Brian we're having a great time watching it, honestly, and I expected this one to be a real fucking loser, but not bad as an episode goes.
See, here's the thing with TNG season 1 that I think like made it work is like what you can see in this episode. The plot is, who cares? Like we haven't even talked like the dude like doing weird drawings, and then the girl like shows up and there's this planet that ostensibly needs protection. We haven't even touched on that because it's stupid and boring and it's dumb.
Yeah, that's another thing about Left Trek. We get on so many tangents because we don't really want to talk about these stupid. There's so many interesting things to talk about, but we're shackled to the format of the show.
No, I get you, but the point I was trying to make is like the early seasons of Next Generation work because like the character interactions are actually decent. Like the interactions between the characters are actually like good. Like the stuff with Data, and I think this is in this episode or next episode too, where like Data is constantly like oh, this will happen in like 6 hours, 10 minutes, and then everyone just constantly interrupts and like, all right, thanks, Data, we get it. Like those little bits of like humanity shine through, and so like I think the actors bring a lot of stuff to it, and
Oh
like,
yeah.
and there's like good character interaction here and there that like helps like that like helped the show last longer than it probably should have
You
based
can
on
see
its actual plots, because these plots are nothing.
Oh yeah, a weaker cast would have sunk this episode like halfway through would have sunk the series halfway through the first season. Yeah, everyone's great. Just absolute fire, just all the way through the cast. You see that a lot with like Troy. Obviously gets a lot of shit from fans. You see that with Troy this episode. She has a she's used in an incredibly, and of course she was, you know, behind the scenes. We talked about this a little bit. It's just like constantly abused by the production staff. But she has this the very, very specific kind of like tenderness that you don't see a lot in for many characters, for like any characters in, oh, not any, but she has a certain way of communicating her expression of emotion that I find just very fascinating from like an acting point of view, and I think she did a good job with that. I wish she got some better material.
I think it's actually really radical that this show, like, there is something to be said about how women were placed, like all the women are placed in caregiver roles. Like you have the doctor, you have the counselor, and then Tasha Yar, she is kind of playing against type, but then they didn't know what to do with her because of that. Like she is like the warrior woman, and they're like, well, I don't know, she got raped a bunch. That's what we'll do with her character.
Oh god.
Yeah,
And then she also is like redundant with Worf as well.
yeah, and so like that's why that actress left, because like her character's nothing because she was not in the caregiving role. That all being said, I will say that the choice to have a counselor on the ship, like that sort of scene, like is so 80s. Like it's such an 80s choice, but I think it's actually really cool that like a main character on this like military sci-fi show is like, we care about mental health. And while it doesn't play out super well in her character over the, like they don't do a ton, every so often they do some interesting stuff with her, but for the most part they don't.
She gets used very utilitarianly.
Yeah.
You know, if you need someone who's able to read minds or like sense something that sensors can't pick up, well, there's Troy. She's sitting there. Whenever she's inconvenient for the plot, well, where's Troy? I guess she's just doing something else. No, well,
she does get some good stuff later on in the series, but but that being said, like the Romulan spy episode is great.
Yes, love that one.
But I will say too, like speaking on this counselor bit.
3 weeks later.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Where were we on the? Where did I hit the notes?
No idea.
So the plot of this first episode, to summarize it relatively quickly, Loxana Troy is engaged to this one guy, but they didn't really know about it. It's kind of this like complicated situation. But her new husband comes on board, and her new husband is like, oh, I thought you were the woman of my dreams, and he has a bunch of pictures describing in detail the woman of his dreams. This blonde woman with gigantic 80s hair. It's huge.
Beautiful.
It's some of the biggest hair I've seen in my life. And he just has all these like obsessive drawings with her, and then he brings them on board the ship with him as well. It's very embarrassing.
He's hugging them. He really loves them.
Troy
acts like a fucking. Acts like it's like it's the hottest version of like Tiger Beat or whatever the fuck it was back in the 80s.
Troy is like, well, I'm sorry, I'm not the woman of your dreams. He's like, oh, it's just a childish fantasy, and he's not even like reassuring her. He's just saying, well, yeah, you're not the woman of my dreams, which, okay, well, fair enough, interesting. Okay, well, moving on. So they're here picking up these diplomats that are on Haven, but suddenly this ship shows up. What's this ship doing? It's not answering anyone's communications. I wonder why. And oh my god, they identified it. It's the plague ship from that one species that plagued themselves to death, and then they had such an infectious plague that if they land on your planet, they're gonna kill everyone, and then a bunch of like other species hunted down the survivors and killed all of them. Like, oh fuck, okay. And this is
wow, it got dark real quick.
yeah. And this is the one survivor, the one like surviving ship that it turns out, and this is a big mystery that's going back and forth. There's this relationship drama between Troy. There's a lot of good scenes with Loxana, and then it turns out, oh my goodness, the plague ship finally answers the hail, and it's the woman of this guy's dream, and everyone's like, quickly, everyone, get the guy up there. The woman of his dreams is on the view screen.
I want to like an episode like where we come back to them like 10 years and it's just like a horrible hatred marriage. They just despise each other.
he's just locked in a room. Like, he's still working on curing the plague, which he's now infected with, but they just absolutely fucking hate each other, and they have the psychic connection. Oh, that good concept. I'll write one of those TNG books about it, like how the one where the crew of the Enterprise meets the X-Men.
Mm-hmm. Which is a great book, by the way. It's so weird.
It's good. I saw it once, like in my school library, like when I was in like 8th grade. And it's like, what the fuck?
Weirdly works better than you think. It is very much like comic book nonsense, but weirdly works better than you think, because like Wolverine and Worf become besties, which is like, that is a pairing I didn't realize how much I needed. And like Storm and Troy like become friends, and then there's like jokes about the fact that Patrick Stewart played both Professor X and Picard, which is funny.
Oh no, yeah, that is funny. There's it's the same thing. I mean the Star Trek books are just fan fiction. Like, you know, everyone knows that, and just like fan fiction, there's definitely some gems out there. There's talented writers that are passionate about these franchises, and occasionally or even often they do some good stuff, like apparently the X-Men TNG crossover book.
That's not the one that I would defend the most. What I would defend, if you're looking for Star Trek books, sorry, this is just another side. I apologize.
6.5 hours later.
We'll get through this real quick. So so the guy, oh my goodness, he sees his lady love on the ship, and they're on the plague ship, and he's got to figure out, oh, what am I gonna do? It becomes pretty obvious quickly. He's gonna transport himself over to the ship. He takes some medical supplies and then like as much fentanyl as he can get his hands on in a hypo spray. He doses the guard with fentanyl. The guard passes out immediately, and then transports himself over to the ship, where he meets the crew. He meets the love of his life in person. It turns out she has all these drawings of him, and he's looking at them like criticizing the anatomy of her art style and stuff. And then the guy shows up with like, oh, we knew that you'd be coming over, and he's thinking, wait, was this like a group thing? Maybe I didn't know what I was getting myself into here. Yeah, and then the episode ends, I think, and then, oh, Troy isn't gonna get married. Huzzah! Everyone gets called off. The guy's parents are devastated that his son has basically just like infected himself with an incurable plague and is gonna just live on this ship with these 8 people for the remainder of his natural life, trying to find a cure that like entire species weren't able to do. Like, okay, well, God bless, buddy. have a good time. They have this like psychic connection, but it's not like explained super well. The Troy talks about like how the life is connected, blah blah blah. It's an interesting episode overall. A lot of good moments, a lot of good character acting, like Troy knocking over the really noisy gong at the dinner reception, very funny.
That
it's an episode that relies heavily on the cast and the character interactions rather than anything to do with the plot.
Yeah, very much so. Well, so closing thoughts on Haven and everyone.
I don't know. It's another episode where like Data's just being Data, and then everybody just gets mad at him because they're just like, once again, who unplugged the toaster? Who let it walk around the ship? I thought
Mhm.
Thought he was supposed to be on the bridge at all times. What's going on here?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Zot's a big, but rightly so, big defender of Data and the poor treatment that he's getting abused throughout this first season.
I feel bad. I feel bad for Data. I stand Data this first season. I think it's great. He's doing nothing wrong. Everyone else is at fault.
And Brett Spiner or Spinner or however you say his name, so good at playing Data. Plays the character
fantastic.
masterfully. It's amazing. And then it ends there. Her husband, that plot gets resolved by him infecting himself forever on the plague ship.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, all that matters is that Riker now holds dominance over Troy. That's and that's the story that we really needed to have told. That a man can have both woman and career.
Imzadi.
Yay! Yeah.
Brian, closing thoughts on Haven.
That's
That's my thoughts on it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's an episode that has fun character moments, introduces Lexana Troy, which I'm here for. Plot is stupid. There's some sexist stuff with Troy, and Riker's kind of weird, even though I love him as my sex positive king. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
What? Yeah.
I love Riker brooding in the desert. Like he's just he's just pouting. He's just like, and he's like, and he calls her by her name. She's like, what? Am I not your Ansani anymore? And he's just like, well, what about the other guy? It's just this teenage bullshit.
And then the other guy, or Riker's in Nightmare. The other guy shows up onto the holodeck, and then Riker is like socially pressured to leave, and they make out on his brooding rock.
Yeah.
That's the tags for this episode include NTR. Oh my god, poor Riker. Holy shit. What? Yeah.
Whatever. He can at least go enjoy his harp porn.
Yeah, there you go.
He goes right back to his room and watches some
Just
tiny
sitting
ladies
there.
play the harp.
He's the guy who watches the porn for the plot. Like that's who Riker is.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
Part.
Next episode 11, listed on Netflix. The Big Goodbye. I remember that. I forgot to write it down. I remembered it.
Hey, goodbye.
Hey,
God, I hated this fucking episode.
The first ever holodeck malfunction episode.
Yeah,
This episode was fucking dog shit. The only thing that made it good was, once again, it's another episode that lets Picard and Data just chew the fucking scenery. It just lets them just here you go, do whatever the fuck you want. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast has to actually pretend that their that Star Trek is relevant to their lives. It's sure, give go ahead.
Oh no, sorry.
I was just gonna say, it's just funny to me because it's just we say that Patrick Stewart was always on the borderline in this first season of just saying fuck this show, fuck you, I'm out, and it just seems like they just gave well, we got a couple of these episodes, you can do whatever the fuck you want in these ones, and just that's just how they got him through the first season.
Yeah, it's what I love. Okay, this episode is fascinating to me. It's again another very bad episode, but it's it's so quaint, I think is the word to put it, because what this episode's trying to do is we all of us understand the holodeck. It's kind of a fine, we get the holodeck now, but at the time that this episode was released, the holodeck was a new concept. So the whole idea of this episode is very much trying to just get you to understand what the holodeck is. There's actually that good shot where Picard, the doors open, Picard walks into the Dixon Hill set for the first time, and it's very much showing you oh, we're going from the ship onto the holodeck, which again, kind of quaint by today's standards, but it was very much them being let's explain what this is very slowly, and it's Picard's getting all excited about it, oh my gosh, I got to see cars, oh, it's so cool.
Worf goes automobile.
You can install the sloppiest toppy mods into this 1920 simulator. It's great.
Yeah. And so it's the episode's just very clearly trying to just walk the audience into understanding what the holodeck is. And so you can kind of see when the holodeck malfunctions start to happen, the guy gets shot and they're just oh no, he's dying. It's just so quaint because we know like later on in Star Trek, it becomes like, and it's gaining sentience, and also we're all gonna die. The Nazis are coming out of the like. It gets crazy with holodeck malfunctions.
The Nazis are taking over Voyager. Oh god.
Which is an episode. And so like it gets crazy with the holodeck, and this one's just like simple, like we're gonna try and explain to mobsters that they're holograms and they'll disappear.
Yes.
Like, and one dude gets kind of shot, and we'll consider that stakes. Like it's just the episode is just quaint, and I understand why they did it because it was trying to explain stuff, but it's just so like, oh, you're just so adorable, you.
Boring in a very in a interesting and unique way, which is which definitely is like the appeal, like the only real appeal of Next Generation season 1. A lot of really interesting ideas, a lot of ideas that set the groundwork for things that are going to be explored in Star Trek and in other series that are not even related to Star Trek, and just done in a very particularly weird way, and often very racist, very sexist way. But in this episode, it's just we have a combination of like the fish out of water stuff with these people from like the far future going back to like the 1930s. Like where are they? Chicago, I'm guessing.
I think so, probably.
Yeah, like
No, it was San Francisco.
Was it? Oh, it's because it always has to be San Francisco is the only city in Star Trek.
it's the only city on Earth. Incredible.
And New Orleans.
Oh yeah,
and New Orleans,
that too. Yeah. They expand the canon to include Earth's second city, New Orleans, in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
And the entirety of France. Like there's no like no real, like you don't get Paris really or anything. It's just France exists.
Well,
there's the one vineyard.
you do get Paris in another holodeck episode where Picard
will always have Paris.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot. It's also called "It's Always Paris." I don't even remember the plot of that. By the way,
there's
episode.
a great Lower Decks episode called "We'll Always Have Tom Paris," but in season 2.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I heard about that.
Oh,
that's not. I can't wait. Looking forward to it.
So there's a scene I really want to point out.
Please.
What happened here when that one red shirt gets shot.
It's not even like, what do you call it? Like, I understand like red shirt's a Trekkie term, but like they're not even wearing red shirt. It's just like a new character. It's like a new actor. Like it's just like, oh, here's somebody who's not part of the main crew. They're gonna die. They're fucked.
Yeah, just love the like. The guy pulls a gun on him, and they're all like, "Oh, this is fine. Don't worry about it." And then he just gets he's like, "Yeah, what are you gonna do? Shoot me, basically?" And then the motherfucker shoots him, and he's like, "Wait a second."
I love that he never shows up ever again.
I know.
Okay.
Well, because he dies at the end. They don't talk about it, but he's dead at the end of the.
Hold on. At the end of that too, like as he gets shot. Beverly just fucking claps and starts laughing.
Yeah.
And I love that so much.
She's so delighted.
She's like, oh my god.
It's
so
amazing.
real.
How dramatic.
It's so
So
my favorite thing. Oh, sorry.
I go ahead because I just want to talk about like the gunshot wound itself in a second.
Oh please, I was gonna change subject, so you.
So earlier when we were talking about like why like the holodeck technology ends up becoming like way too like silly, like Eric's grievances. It's like Wesley was wet. And now no one is ever wet when they come out of the holodeck anymore. It's like and I'm saying that this was the reason why, like this, because like remember like Picard's told like this is like, hey, your new updates for the holodeck came in, right? And I just imagine that whoever programmed that update for the holodeck, there was no fucking like they were like, oh, no one's gonna like put themselves in a dangerous situation where they can get shot in the stomach, and then like it happened.
You're ridiculous.
Safety protocols just don't
involved.
Actually, because they never. That's interesting because they don't mention because you don't know about this yet, thoughts, but they have this thing called like safety protocols specifically for the holodeck. Do they mention safety protocols in this episode at all that they've been like disabled? Because that's usually how people get shot.
I don't remember, but yeah, they do have safety protocols. Why you would ever turn them off ever? It was like, why is there even safety protocols to turn off in the holodeck?
Yeah. Well, how I imagine it is that
Klingons holograms, maybe. Like,
how I always picture it is that the safety protocols are that's just like when people are using it. But if you need to do some like super advanced simulation, like some kind of industrial simulation, then you can turn the safety protocols off because you need like a realistic simulation of what would actually happen instead of like the the bullets don't actually hurt you or whatever version.
I mean, like,
But
yeah,
I think about like
even people in armed services go through like live fire combat. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. What I would wonder though is like if they use it for astrometrics, like they're like, oh, well, let's go into space. Like we can just like, oh, we want to just see like the trajectory of this comet or whatever. And so they go into the holodeck and it's like outer space and they're just like walking around as they like view the like a kind of like a planetarium sort of thing, right? They walk into a planetarium and then the safeties turn off. They just like suffocate and die in the coldness of space inside the holodeck.
Great.
Like,
yes,
this is a great question.
And with this patch, with this unplay tested version of the holodeck, yeah, absolutely.
So
like holodeck patch 1.02, you can now suffocate in the coldness of space.
Yeah,
I want to point one thing out. Okay, so the reason that it turned off, right, was that they got scanned by this alien, this group of insectoid aliens that have like very different technology, and their scan like was very alarming to a lot of people on the ship, right? You saw it go through the hallways, this like purple beam of light, and everybody's like, oh my god, and looking around like, what's happening? But it's all fine, and nobody thinks anything actually happened. But that's what disables the like safety protocols, right? That we just kind of assume exist for the holodeck. It's never talked about explicitly, I don't think.
Yeah.
So
I think they do have an idea of like that safety protocols would be a thing, even if they don't like say it, because otherwise like they would all freak out once the guy actually did get shot, right?
Yeah.
I would also say too, like it's just weird that like they're that hair trigger. Like, you know, everything is fine except for this one thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even that. Like Picard starts choking on the cigarette. Like, why would the cigarette have? Like, why is there manufactured tobacco? Like, what? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's just like I was talking about it with. I was talking about it earlier when I came in and y'all were watching the show. It's just like, can you get cancer from the holodeck? Like, can you get lung cancer from the holodeck? Because it's just like,
presumably, yeah.
I'm gonna say yes, but cancer is stated many times to be something that is trivially easy to cure in any circumstance with Star Trek technology. Because I guess they can just scan and see the cancerous cells and just beam those fuckers out of you.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you don't need those. That's fine.
Those are excess.
They actually do that. They actually do that in season 2, which I'm surprised they never do that ever again. They have like, they literally in an episode of season 2, there's a Dr. Pulaski is sick with some weird stuff, and they're just like, well, what we'll do is we'll find some of her DNA from a few hours ago before she got sick, and then we'll beam her, and we'll use the old DNA to just reset her to when she was healthy, and it'll be fine. And that's what they do. And I'm like, why would you not always use that every single time anyone ever gets sick?
That raises some interesting questions.
They did something similar to that when Picard became combined with like
the energy alien.
Yeah, some energy alien, and they were like, well, we'll bring him back. We can bring his consciousness back because like we have a copy of his data,
yeah.
And then the energy
in the back.
We gotta back up. We can copy paste that shit.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it's the Borderlands thing, right? Like like when you like the respawn from Borderlands.
But the only reason they can do that is because they have the Picard's energy comes back into the ship, and he makes the P for Picard on the console. and then he as just completely like bodiless, a being of pure energy is somehow able to just navigate himself through the ship systems into the transporters, which then gives them the energy necessary to create. Doesn't make any fucking sense. Gets contradicted a billion times over. The more you think about it, the less it will make sense. And I forgot about the Pulaski one though. That's interesting.
Yeah. People should be functionally immortal in Star Trek, like right from like all of this transporter nonsense all the way through to, if we're gonna talk modern style, I'll just mention it, Like Picard in Picard season 1, him getting the golem synth body is like people were upset about that in Picard season 1. I'm like, yeah, that's stupid and bad storytelling, but it's not out of line with Star Trek's nonsense.
Yeah, like with the Plasty thing too. Like, why wouldn't you just like, oh, you're getting like very old, like your body is shutting down, like you're in Star Trek, that's like you're 190, like maybe 300 years old as a human being, and then okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and I've transported like dozens and hundreds of times in my life. I have like copies from when I was like 30. I'll just go ahead and put myself back into my own like 30-year-old body. Like,
and they do that. There's an episode of that, Rascals, where they teleport Picard and everyone, and they come back as like 13-year-olds, but he still has his memory. He still has all of his memory.
Really called it Rascals, didn't they?
It's called Rascals, and yeah, it's just like Picard's like a 13-year-old kid, and they're like, well, we can't, like the first half of that episode is like, well, we can't fix this, so Picard, I guess you're gonna have to like go back to school. Which is weird because he has all of his memories, and it's just like very strange.
Yeah, and they I actually deleted a tweet where I complained about that specific episode, because there's no reason he should be demoted as captain. There's no reason he should step down. He's just a younger version of himself. It's only because no one could take him seriously because he looks like a kid, but he's still the same fucking guy.
Yeah, I understand. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, was it so that they could make Wesley captain for an episode?
No, Wesley's not on the show at that point.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they do mention him in that episode where she's saying like, oh, you go back to the academy, and then he's like, oh yeah, and be Wesley Crusher's roommate.
Yeah, they do say that. Which again, it's just weird. It's like, why would he has all, like, he can just stay captain. Like,
he's just the same.
Why is everyone so ageist in this? Like, why? Like, you deal with fucking aliens, you can't deal with your captain looking young. Like I feel like there's like weird ageism in
and there's definitely like species out there. You could very easily imagine a species that just like ages like very slowly, or ages backwards, like those people in Voyager. The reason I deleted that tweet is because I said after they all get transported back into children after Bryan Singer sabotaged the transporter.
Oh god, that's dark. That is dark.
Then I deleted that tweet. I never sent it. I sent a draft to Bryan, and I was like, oh, here's this is Here's something I thought up with my mind.
It's like I get you. That's a funny joke, but yeah, way too dark for Twitter. Yeah. Where that would not go over.
This is getting bleeped. This is not going into the final episode. This is getting bleeped. Every mention of my joke, of my very funny, very dark joke that none of you will be. Never mind.
I will say, what was I gonna just bring it back to the episode. So one thing I do like in this episode that is, I put solely on the actors. It's only the actors that do this. It is not in the writing. It's not anywhere else, but the actors picked up on it. It's Gates McFadden does a great job where when Picard comes into the into like talk about how his amazing holodeck time, where he has like the lipstick on his lips. And like she cleans it off to him. It's very clear that like Beverly, she plays that as like jealous. Like she's very jealous of Picard like kissing this dude, and that is definitely not in the script. That is definitely an actor choice that she made, and I think that it comes up really well. And then also in that same scene, the other thing I love, speaking of Riker being my sex positive king, is I love every single, watch it for as you all go through this show. This happens every time. Every single time a character has some sort of like positive sexual experience, the camera will cut to Riker, who Jonathan Frakes is just smiling, being like, "Yeah, you get it, you get some," and like he just like gives this like knowing smile, and it's just like him like wanting to high five, like, "Yeah, you got laid, my friend." Like every single time, single time.
I like that reading. That's a good reading.
I picked up on that on the Aryan episode. He was just beaming, walking through every fucking room where like everybody's just sex crazed. Like they're just like, he's just like, yeah. yeah, this is it. This is the life. Like, oh man, we need to get on this planet now.
Well,
Like, come on.
And that goes through every single season. There's like a season 6 episode where Beverly's dating it's the Trill episode where Beverly's dating the Trill guy and he's like really happy and like she's like, yeah, we went on a really nice date and he came back to my quarters last night, and Riker, and then just a random cut to like, there's no lines or anything, it's just random cut to Riker being like, yeah, he got some.
the famous Riker smile.
Yeah.
But that gets done.
That man is just terribly handsome. Like,
Jonathan
destructively
Frakes is
handsome.
the best.
Dangerously
I adore
handsome.
him. He is.
God
If you
damn.
ever see interviews with him, he is the warmest dad energy you've ever seen in your life.
Oh,
That's so
like
nice
that.
to hear. What?
Yeah.
You couldn't be more appropriate from anyone else. And they do the whole like sex positivity thing, even, and I'm sure you talk about Risa with that, where it's just a better version of like the Aryan sex planet, where
Risa is his own whole. So this, do you know? I talk about this in the beginning of my Sex and Star Trek thing. You know the story of Risa, right?
Like
how that got created?
Like the canon?
No. Why it got created?
What's that?
So, okay, I'll try and make this quick. The reason Risa got created is, number one, Patrick Stewart kept talking about wanting Picard to get laid. He's like, Picard's too stuffy. I want him to just get laid. And so he was constantly complaining about that. And so Ira Stephen Bear, who was a writer on Next Generation at the time, but would go on to be the showrunner of Deep Space Nine, he was like, okay, well, I was given a mandate from Rick Berman to write an episode where the captain gets laid. So he created Risa, where it was just like, oh, we'll go to this like planet, this little pleasure planet. It's a vacation planet, and you'll have the like what the episode kind of turned out to be was like the Indiana Jones kind of adventure, and Patrick Stewart's like has like an Indiana Jones adventure and with the girl and gets laid with the girl.
Mm-hmm.
And Vosh. And so he creates that story. But then he goes into and it's more just like a vacation planet. He goes into Gene Roddenberry's office and he tells him that story. And this is the wait, can I actually, let me see if I can pull up the exact quote here. Because I wrote about it in my Star Trek, my section of Star Trek, when I have the exact quote from him.
And tune in once again to the Jessie Gender YouTube show, A Sex on Star Trek, episode 2 coming soon.
Yeah, the quote is, oh gosh, where is it? I have it here.
We will not be talking about sex on Star Trek on this podcast because we don't want to get sued by Jesse.
Here's the quote right here. This is that quote. So he goes into Gene Roddenberry and he says, this is what Gene Roddenberry says to him. It's like, we're not doing that idea. I don't like that idea. I think that's kind of a silly idea. We don't need to do it. However, I like this idea of the pleasure planet. Come up with this. come up with a story where he's stressed and overworked and he goes down to this pleasure planet, and I want to see in the background women holding hands with other women and men walking holding hands with other men. In scene, which is again like positive, sex positively, yes. In scenes in the background, I want to see women kissing other women and men kissing other men. And then in the background, I want to see orgies. I want this to be an erotic episode where the captain gets to indulge his erotic nature and takes part.
Hell yeah.
Gene Roddenberry, folks. That's what he wanted.
Gene fucking
Roddenberry. Wait, do the gay background characters, did that actually stay in the episode?
No. This is a Rick Berman thing. Again, and go into this. Rick Berman, several times, Gene Roddenberry did state before he died that he did want to have a gay main character on Star Trek and have gay people in the background of certain scenes. But then he passed away before that could happen, sadly. And then Rick Berman, when people kept trying to put gay content on the show and talk about LGBTQ issues on Next Generation, there was a script called Blood and Fire that was about the HIV epidemic in gay men that he shot down, said, you're not going to make this. Rick Berman shut it down, said, you're not going to make this. And then there was the episode where Data has his daughter, Lal. And in that scene, there's a scene in that episode where Data's daughter is learning about relationships, and she like sees a man and a woman kissing in 10 Forward, and she's like, "Oh, that's what relationships are." The original idea for that scene was it was going to be 2 men kissing, and Rick Berman said no.
I heard of that one. I did hear about. I think that was on the Renegade Cut episode about Rick Berman.
Yep.
Yeah, Rick. What a damn shame. And then you don't get like the first like gay kiss until. Deep Space Nine, phenomenal Deep Space Nine episode where Jadzia is reconnecting with like a past love, and it's like taboo, and it's very clearly like an allegory to
For LGBTQ, yeah.
Yeah, and they're worried about this taboo, but they have all these feelings with each other, and in the end it ends sad, but otherwise fantastic episode.
I love that it's rejoined. I love that episode. My only two problems with it, I agree with you completely. I have two problems. One, the sad ending, which is it's not a bury your gays necessarily because they don't die, but it's still a sort of like queer people can't have happy endings sort of thing. And then the other thing too, this is actually a positive that I like on it, but no one really talks about this reading. I also read that whole episode as like a trans person, like the spouse of a trans person trying to handle their spouse going through transition. Yeah.
Oh, I would completely agree with that, because Jadzia at the time where they were connected in the past was a man. The Dax symbiote was inhabiting a man at the time he was married to a woman. So once again, for the millionth time on Left Trek, big recommended Deep Space Nine, covering a lot of interesting stuff, sex, gender, all kinds of stuff, testing the limits of the Federation. That one episode that I skip every time, where Cisco genocides that Maquis planet.
That episode is good up until that moment, and then you're like, oh no.
Yeah, I love Eddington as a character.
Oh, Eddington's great.
Anyway, moving on. So we talked about, forget where we left off. Picard needs to do a speech to the insect people, otherwise they're going to dismember him or something.
It's definitely inferred. Yep.
It's inferred that if he fucks this speech up in this like weird insect language, then these alien bugs are definitely going to like rip him apart piece by piece and then record it and send it to the Federation like the previous captain that introduced himself.
It's messed up. It's like, that's dark.
Well,
I love how Data was just like, why doesn't the captain want to see that? And they're just like, doesn't he want all the information available? And it's like, it was just like, well, they already seen it once. Don't you want to see it again?
Yeah, like this is very important. I will say Data is great in this. This is also the episode where he gets his interest in Sherlock Holmes, which will actually continue.
That is actually already happened.
Oh, is that last episode?
Oh, really?
Or?
A couple episodes.
That's the one where Picard, that's the energy being one still.
Okay. I forgot because I haven't rewatched in a while. But well, at least it comes back up here, which I appreciate that ongoing storyline, because that'll even get continued further on.
Several times. And that's Data's fascination, where he hears about like a book series, then he just reads through the whole thing in like a minute and becomes obsessed with it.
It's like, guys, have you heard of like this thing called like Lord of the Rings or the Da Vinci Code or something? It's like, yes, Data, we heard of this.
Yeah, can't wait to show Data a Song of Ice and Fire.
Data's like
just an Iron Islander.
Talking about Star Trek is, I think, the best touch point.
Yeah. So, but Picard's all stressed because he's about to get dismembered if he messes up a single syllable, and Troy's like, "You gotta relax. The holodeck just got its new patch. They added guns." And she goes, go check it out. So, Picard's wanted to check out the Dixon Hill stories for ages, and the computer's gonna go randomly generate them. And he goes and checks it out, and it's very interesting. There's some like intrigue, some classic like noir detective intrigue, and then he's describing it to his friends in an important meeting where he has lipstick on his mouth because the dame went and kissed him, and then she wound up dead. And oh, lo and behold, and we get the very like frustrated Crusher where Picard invites her to the holodeck, and she's like, oh yeah, great, and then he also invites like some expert on like 20th century history, and then she just rolls her fucking eyes like, oh my god. which then also happens later in the episode where she's like, oh, let's go check out your office, and this is after they had some like very intense like sexual tension, intense for
Yeah.
Insert the Picard sound. and the guy's like, oh, can I come too? And Data, because he's doing a Chicago accent, is like, me too, boss. And Beverly just rolls her fucking eyes.
They both like look at them like, you fucking assholes. You fucking assholes. We just wanted to have hot 1930s fucking sex. That's all we wanted to do.
We just wanted to throw a bunch of things off of a desk, but now these two like squares are ruining it all. And oh my goodness, they get back to the office and they've been kidnapped by gangsters. Very early, they don't realize the danger that they're in, even though the rest of the crew does. And oh my god, one of the gangsters shoots the 20s expert who we've never seen before and will never see again. And then there's this whole plot about like, oh, they have some kind of like item that the mobsters want, and then they need to get out of this episode, and Picard figures that the best way to do that is to convince these 1920 gangsters that they're actually computer programs on a holodeck, and actually explain and tries to convince them that they're not actually real, which I mean, bold move. I'll try that next time I'm in some trouble.
Yeah, it's like, this is all just a holodeck program, man. It's like, whoa, Matrix shit going on here. They're just trying to literally like red pill these gangsters.
That plot kind of follows through to an interesting end. The one thing I want to point out first is that there's some error. The aliens, they want Picard to deliver his speech so they can decide whether or not they're going to dismember him. But they're stuck on the holodeck, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go check out the holodeck. I'll bring some engineers with me. And then Wesley, who's on the bridge, stands up and is like, I've memorized every holodeck technical manual. and then Riker brings him along, and that leads to my favorite, just like in my opinion, the pinnacle of the whole of like the reason that Wesley sucks so much, or just like a very funny contrast, because you have Wesley immediately starts doing the work, and Geordi LaForge, who will become the chief engineer, like a very smart, like just fully competent, extremely successful chief engineer, and then Wesley starts doing the work and is explaining to Geordi like what the problems are. It's just the contrast to me is just so funny.
Well, don't you know that Wesley read all the manuals?
He read every manual.
I do love though that every time Wesley just tries something, they're like, okay, Wesley, just shut the fuck up, all right?
And then they cut back to it later, and then a bunch of actual engineers have showed up, and there's just a bunch of people surrounding Wesley. They're all just consulting him. He's the only one like doing the work. He's got like this like microscope thing. He's looking at all the circuitry. It's fucking dumb. A hilarious thing happens where the solution is, well, okay, we can end this program, but there's a possibility that everyone inside is just going to evaporate immediately. I'm like, holy fuck, what the hell? Like, how is that possible? That's a whole other thing that will never get explored ever again. But then in Wesley succeeds, and in that moment they get transported to like some like Arctic wasteland just for a moment, and the gangsters believe that oh my goodness, we are in a simulation. Let's go into the real world. And they walk out into the real world, and they start like decomposing in a much like in the same kind of like transporter effect, because I'm sure you'll know about this. I'm sure you know more about me than this. Like the transporter effect is like glitter recorded in water, right?
Yep. It's just it's shining a light through like glitter, and then just like putting over. I think they do something a little. They have like, that was the original series where like it was like a weird matte thing where it was just like glitter stuff that they did. Whereas this one, I think they do that still, but they also had like weird lines too in post, but they didn't have the huge budget for it. So.
Yeah, and where the gangsters are decomposing, it's very similar, and it very obviously is like some like paper particles like spinning around like just like spinning in like in a thing of water, and I was like, oh, okay, well that's a lot more apparent, and it looks like a lot worse. But it's supposed to be like a semi-dramatic scene where these characters realize that they're not existing, and but that leads to a much more interesting scene where Picard, where there's this cop who's there in the background as well, and this cop is now coming to realize that he doesn't really exist. He's just like a simulation. This hologram. This is the first like existential crisis that we see. This hologram is now coming to understand that he's not actually real. And he asked Picard, after you leave, my wife and kids, my world, is that all gonna disappear? And Picard goes, I don't know, but he does know. It does not exist.
Like, yep, see ya, bye.
Yeah, see you later. And yeah, and kind of like poetic cinematography here too. Like as soon as the doors shut on the holodeck, all the lights just like start fading out to black like immediately. It's a very like kind of somber ending for this hologram, who is absolutely not going to exist after this. Picard doesn't have the heart to let this guy know, apparently.
I will say at least that theme does come back both in Next Generation and in Voyager, of all places. Gets explored pretty well.
Yeah,
Deep Space Nine, they have it all over the place. Like, what's the
Vic Fontaine?
Yeah, Vic Fontaine.
Oh yeah, Vic Fontaine, totally sentient, like complete sentient.
Yeah, a very interesting character brought in. He's in season 6, right? He's not just season 7.
I think he's mostly season 7, but he does come in towards the end of season 6.
Yeah, very very interesting character. Once again, big recommend on Deep Space Nine, and another ties into another bonus episode that me and Brian already talked about, the horrible fate of Moriarty.
Yeah.
That's a whole another layer of darkness to like the treatment of holograms. Love to see like Robert Picardo, the doctor on Voyager, like reading about this thing that happens and just in disgust, like, oh my god, they've imprisoned this life form in a fantasy.
Yep. My pitch for a Star Trek movie would be like do a Khan like villain return, but with Moriarty.
Yeah,
that would be, instead of it being Khan, it's like Moriarty's the big villain for Picard.
I thought you were saying Con like a Comic-Con, like just like having them stuck in a Comic-Con like on the holodeck like, for Star Trek. Like,
I'll get you, Picard, in my evil Comic-Con of doom.
Oh God, we're stuck at the Las Vegas Star Trek convention. No,
it was like one of those like meta episodes where like they're fans of Star Trek.
Are they at a Star Trek convention?
Yeah.
So. Oh my god! Well,
thankfully, we never hit that point because some shows have done that, and thankfully, Star Trek never gone that far.
If TNG continued like another 7 seasons, we would have got that episode eventually. That's pretty. Oh, and then Picard, like still in his gangster outfit, he comes. Well, the private detective, whatever. He comes out and he delivers a very like quote. I've heard this used a lot in a lot of like TNG edits and all the kind of things where he starts speaking this like insect language. By the way, the vocoding on like the insects, pretty nice. That does sound like some sort of like grasshopper trying to imitate human speech. I quite like the effect, even though it was a very basic one.
Sometimes basic effects works best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Much better than like the mongoose people from that episode prior, where they just pitch shift they do a bunch of weird things and they just make the guy sound like totally illegible and just talking in a super low voice.
Star Trek, that goes back to the first episode of Star Trek in the original pilot of The Cage. They had women playing these aliens, but they had men dub over the voices to give them sort of like the weird ethereal thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I still have not. I've seen the original series, or most of the original series at least. I have not seen The Cage. I should check it out.
It's super sexist in that like the whole plot of it is just like them trying to get Captain Pike to breed. Like the whole episode is like, we have you in a zoo, now fuck this woman. That's literally the episode, but it also has its like interesting moments.
Yeah. Well, with the first officer, of course, number one, yeah, is played by a woman. Incredible.
Played by Majel Barrett, who is Lexana Troy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah. We already talked about that. I already forgot.
Yep.
Fast.
What my favorite thing is, sorry, this is a random aside, but there's that new
Okay.
show, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, right? And both Majel Barrett in Star Trek played both Nurse Chapel and Number One, right? Played both characters.
Mhm.
And in the show Star Trek: Strange New World, both Nurse Chapel and Number One are going to be regular characters on the show.
Interesting.
So I just want them to do a joke where like we look alike, sort of thing, but played by different actresses now.
Wait,
But
is Strange New World like another like New Trek spinoff?
it's a new Trek spinoff that I'm actually super pumped for. It's the original series, but with Pike as the captain. It's Pike, Spock, and Number One. It's basically if they had actually continued Star Trek from what the original pilot was, which was Captain Pike, that's what Strange New Worlds is. It's just like continuing off of that pilot instead of going to Captain Kirk.
Interesting.
Interesting. God, I know there was like a kids show. I didn't know if that was.
Oh,
bad.
Star Trek Prodigy. That one's also out. That was also pretty solid too.
There's a lot of Star Trek going on. It's the new golden age of Star Trek. Everyone celebrate! Yay!
I like it, but I feel your sarcasm.
I'm happy for all the people who genuinely enjoyed these shows. They must be having a great time, and I'm just miserable. Well, but without all this new Trek stuff, Lower Decks wouldn't exist. And I love Lower Decks so much that I don't care about any of this other stuff. The fact that Lower Decks exists makes this all seem worthwhile to me, because it's so funny. Oh my, huge! I right here just want to say huge recommend Star Trek Lower Decks. Some people watch this and they're not very familiar with Star Trek. Like some people watch Left Trek and they're not super familiar with it. Some are much more familiar with it than even I am. To any of you, I want to go ahead and recommend Star Trek Lower Decks. A hilarious animated comedy.
I did a whole hour-long video about how I think it's awesome and also super based. So
go check out Jessie Gender's video on Star Trek Lower Decks for more information about why Lower Decks is so cool. But watch it first because because the show is just absolutely incredible. No spoilers. Yeah. Well, any final thoughts on the big goodbye?
My only thoughts on it is just like, this is, like I said, it's quaint in that it's like trying to explain what the holodeck is to audiences, and so it has to be like sort of rudimentary when we like modern perspectives, we like sort of get it, and so this is just boring and dull now. But looking at it through the lens of what it was at the time, it's like, oh, this episode is just like adorable. You just want to pinch it on the cheeks. It's like, oh, you're just so earnest, and that's great. So that's my thought on it. It's like it's boring and dull. It's not outright bad. It's just sort of boring and dull, and I think it's just kind of weirdly earnest.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Zots, what about you?
I think it was more like, I think it was just like another episode that was like really unfair to Data. Like Data's trying to like involve himself and like get and like go the extra mile to have some fun, and nobody wants to let Data have fun. Like nobody wants to play along with his games. Like even at the end when he tries, like when Geordi asks Data, did you have fun? And he's like, well, let me tell you about it. He goes on this like monologue, and then like Picard's like, shut up, Data. Stop talking. Then Picard gets to have fun by putting on his hat and then saying like, yes, let us go. And it's just like, oh, I see how it is. You can do whatever the fuck you want, but Data, no, Data can't enjoy it.
Yeah, you're right. That's how the episode closes being very unfair to Mr. Data. And of course, next episode, the first Data centric episode. Ooh, look at that. No spoilers. I don't want to spoil thoughts in any of this stuff, but it's Data lore is the next one. Yeah,
have fun.
Looking forward to watching that one. I haven't even watched that episode in a long time. I'm not even 100% sure what it's about.
I will say this is no spoilers, but the way they build out Brent Spiner's like Data's backstory is not great, but it does allow Brent Spiner to just show how good of an actor he is.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I appreciate that.
What range on this man? What a great job, Brent Spiner. Come on the show.
Yeah, the Data family tree is ridiculous, especially considering that all of them look like Brent Spiner.
Yeah, your meaning is like dad, and it's like Data acting like a separate, like apart in just like severe old age makeup.
Yep, and then also he has a great grandfather on Star Trek Enterprise, also played by Brent Spiner, and also
Oh no,
human...
isn't that the same guy? I thought that was just this.
No,
just
it's
him.
his great grandfather, not the same guy.
Oh, okay. I thought he just lived for a really long time.
No, that's his great grandfather.
Okay.
And then on Star Trek Picard, random brother from out of nowhere that also looks like Brent Spiner.
Yeah.
And then also Star Trek Nemesis, another Data clone that is played by Brent Spiner, the B4. So like there are legitimately a shit ton of people on the Data family tree, and they all are played by Brent Spiner.
Oh, looking forward to getting oh god, bonus episodes on the TNG movies. That's gonna be a great time. I have like a very guilty like childhood fondness for Star Trek Nemesis, even though I know it's bad. I know all the TNG ones are bad, but there's just something there's just something fun about them. Like it's fun about a lot of them.
Yeah.
Fun about like Tom Hardy playing bald a young Picard.
I will say, I like all of the Star Trek Nemesis is the only Star Trek movie that I hate. I love all of them. Even Star Trek 5, I think is so bad it's good.
Mhm.
I actively hate Star Trek 5.
Wait, which one's 5?
Sorry. Star Trek 5 is Star Trek Nemesis is the one that I hate. Star Trek Nemesis is the only Star Trek movie that I hate. Star Trek 5 is the so bad it's good one where that William Shatner directed. They go meet God. That's the so bad it's good one. Star Trek Nemesis I find actively offensive.
Yeah.
Hey, there being a queen to the Borg, just
First Contact I like. Nemesis. Sorry, can I keep misspeaking?
Wait,
Nemesis.
I get it wrong?
First Contact's the Borg one. That one I really like. That one I think is the only Next Generation one that's like legitimately great.
Yeah, no,
Nemesis,
you were saying Nemesis. Brian's just classic
Which one's
Brian
Nemesis
continuity error.
Nemesis is the Tom Hardy where Tom Hardy plays Picard's clone.
That Nemesis is the Romulan one, and then First Contact is the Borg one where they go back in time and meet Zephyr Cochrane, who's like a drunk guy.
I'm
The
not
only
100%.
the only thing I know about that movie is that was the movie that made Tom Hardy become addicted to hardcore drugs for a minute.
Yep, that is true.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I know he almost he got addicted to cocaine after that because of how bad that movie was and almost destroyed his career. And then
That's so
also I
terrible.
find that movie particularly offensive. 2 reasons. One, there's the rape of Troy that is only there just to have a rape of Troy.
I forgot about that. Oh my
It's
god.
literally just there to be like, and the bad guy is evil, and like Picard is and so it's like, well, we need to show that the bad guy's evil, so he'll rape Troy for no reason.
Oh my god.
And then Picard's like, after that, she's literally like, yo, Picard, I've been sexually assaulted. Can I please not? Like, can I have a minute to like go to my quarters? And Picard's like, no, I want you on the job right now, right after getting raped.
That's
literally
horrible. I don't remember this at all.
That's literally a scene in the movie.
In my defense, I have not seen Nemesis in probably 10 years. But
yeah.
I used to have
And
a little
then-
DVD player. I would watch it as a kid.
And then also the remans are a great idea. Like there's this whole race of it's this typical thing that Hollywood does, which is vilify radical movements fighting against oppression. So like the remans are framed as like these evil demon people, but you learn their backstory that they're like literally forced to be like they work in mines as like miners and are like killed and subjugated and murdered all the time. And then the movie just plays them like, yeah, they're evil demon people. Like we're gonna have the Romulans come in and save us from them. They're fuck these workers trying to advocate for their rights, you know.
Classic stuff. Classic for Star Trek as well. Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing about Star Trek. The contradiction of Star Trek. The contradiction of this show and any like leftist analysis of Star Trek. There's this fully automated luxury gay communist space future being written by liberals.
I stand by it. This is just the West Wing in space.
Yeah,
that is all this is.
Becoming an analysis from Zot's that's becoming more and more pertinent every episode.
I would argue that the setting of Star Trek is super leftist. And sometimes every once in a while, especially in Deep Space Nine, the show is super leftist, but the writers of the show are typically liberals. And so that's the distinction. I think the setting is incredibly leftist. Every so often episodes are leftist, but most people were liberals, and that's the failure of the show.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more.
I'm super hyped for the amount of time, for the amount of shit that, or for the amount of content that Eric has to parse through in this editing process.
I am sorry. I actually have to get running too, so I might need it because I have to eat dinner and then I have to be on another live stream. So
you gotta pull that. Yeah, well, yeah. This recording, Left Trek, 1 hour episodes. I've been recording this for 2 hours and 52 minutes at this point. So looks like it's another a two-parter Left Trek episode. The first one was with Elliot. The second one is with Jesse. But Jesse, we should stay on for a little bit and talk. But this is a good way to end. Loves having you on, absolutely. Please, everyone, check out Jessie Gender's YouTube video. Check Jessie Gender out on Nebula, on Twitter. You want some Star Trek takes, you want some leftist Star Trek content, you want your Matrix, the trans analyzed. Check out her program. It's fantastic. And
thank you.
And that's Left Trek, everyone. Have a good time. Hey. Goodbye, recording. See ya.
Specify parameters.